have a protein, some load of protein.
That is awesome.
My grandchildren don't know what they eat when I make the meatloaf.
Yeah.
I add a little bread.
Oh, so you put it in your chia seeds? Yes.
If I tell them, they will never eat.
Well, Kim will probably elaborate a little bit about the chia. And chia seeds, I've been looking for them. I noticed that they're about chia seeds, and Kim is definitely going to elaborate. It's chock full of calcium. And so I think the other piece is when we eat calcium, we also need vitamin D. So you need the two to metabolize to help and work. You know, so it's also, it has a lot of magnesium. There's probably a lot of things that we have to take. I'm not the expert. Kim's the expert. So without further ado, thanks so much.
No problem. So my name is Kim. I'm the dietitian at the Randolph Weis. I came to, I don't know if it was this group, like years ago I did a Healthy Bones presentation. Yeah? Okay. But I feel like if you guys are graduating, you know everything about calcium. So if you're not familiar, I provide completely free services at Weis. I do presentations like this at different community events. I do one-on-one nutrition counseling completely free, either in the store or online, whatever works. So lots of fun stuff. I gave you guys a lot of things. So Healthy Bites magazine is our free magazine that you can get in the store. It comes out every other month. So it's the end of August now. The September one will be coming out soon. Lots of great recipe ideas in there. And then the handouts I put in there, I made a calcium cheat sheet with just, I feel like it's easy to put on your fridge or keep somewhere handy. And it just has a list of a bunch of things and how much calcium they have. So some common animal-based sources, of course you have dairy and things like that, and then a bunch of plant-based sources as well, like the chia seeds. So today I also gave you a recipe that you're gonna have to try. So we are making apple pie Greek yogurt parfaits. I'm gonna start chopping. So I was just getting ready here. We are using some plain Greek yogurt, and that is gonna be, of course, our biggest source of calcium. You can use another type of Greek yogurt as well. So we're gonna be adding some maple syrup to this, so that's gonna make it sweet. If you were to use like a vanilla yogurt, you probably wouldn't need to add any maple syrup because that already has some sugar in it. So what I'm gonna do is just chop up some apples. I'm leaving the peel on to get a little bit of fiber. If you follow the recipe exactly, it says to peel them. And you can also cook the apples to make it like a warm topping. So this is a bit of like an easier way to do the same recipe. But similar idea. And while I'm doing this, so a couple of tips about calcium. First of all, do you guys have any questions?
Well, I have a question on the yogurt.
Sure.
I usually buy the yogurt with fruit. So is it better to buy the plain and then they add your fruit, or is it better? Which is better?
So the difference is going to be like she asked if anyone didn't hear, she buys yogurt with fruit on the bottom. Is it better to do that or add your own? The difference is going to be the sugar content. So when you have Greek yogurt, for example, they're all going to be a good source of protein. They might vary a little bit. They're all going to be a good source of calcium. But what varies a lot is going to be the sugar content. So in a plain, you don't have any sugar added. Milk naturally has sugar in it. That's the lactose. But in a plain, it has no sugar added. So in a fruit-flavored yogurt, they add fruit, which is great, but they usually add some sugar too. So the difference, like if you were to just take plain yogurt and put strawberries versus a strawberry yogurt, it wouldn't be as sweet unless you added some kind of sweetener. So if you wanted to reduce, it's a long answer, but if you wanted to reduce your sugar, then you could certainly get plain and add it yourself. But I mean, I think the caveat with Greek yogurt, plain Greek yogurt has like a very strong taste. I'm a vanilla yogurt person. I need a little sugar in there. So like if that's what you're gonna eat, then that's the better option. You know what I mean? Like if you're gonna buy this and like drown it in honey to make it sweet, then in the end, like just buy the fruit one that you like. You know what I mean? To make sure that you eat it.
What's the calcium amount you're supposed to have a day?
So it's on the, for specific ages, it's on the handout in there, but it's between 1,000 and 1,200 a day. So things you want to look for that, one, like you just said, you want to make sure you're getting vitamin D as well, and that helps to absorb the calcium better. If you had a bunch of calcium and had no vitamin D in your diet, you just wouldn't absorb it as well. So you're not getting all of the calcium that you're eating. So vitamin D can come from some foods, can come from the sun. A lot of times supplementation is the easiest way to get vitamin D because it can be hard to get it solely through food or the sun. because really, we're not getting much from the sun. Like if you put sunscreen on, you're not really absorbing vitamin D, but of course sunscreen is important. So like, you know, just take a vitamin D supplement. It's usually an easier way. But that's the amount you need. And when you have that much, you want to split it throughout the day to make sure you absorb it a little bit better. So you wouldn't want to have like 1,000 milligrams all at once. You'd want to do up to 500 at a time. So if it was a supplement or something and you were having like 500 milligrams, you would want to split it throughout the day. Just to absorb it a little bit better.
Is it about 500 or 5,000 milligrams of vitamin D?
1,000. Oh, I'm sorry, I have calcium. I didn't say an amount for vitamin D. Yeah, I don't know that amount off the top of my head. But the amount I said was specifically for calcium.
Yeah.
So that's just something you want to look for, not having it all at once. Making sure you're having vitamin D. And on the back of that handout is a few recipes. Remember what I put on there. And how much calcium is in them. So I started with tofu. Tofu a lot of times is made with calcium in it, so then it can be a really good source of calcium. If you're not familiar with tofu, it's great. There's a bunch of different textures to it. So you have silken to extra firm. I promise there's ways to make it good. A really, really easy way to make tofu good is I make it as like a taco filling. I use a potato masher and mash it and add taco seasoning and peppers and onions. Delicious. I saute it, get it like nice and brown, add the other taco toppings, very good. So that's like my easiest way to try tofu. But of course there's other recipes as well, and that's one of them. You can find the details for all of these recipes on the website at the bottom of the sheet there.
Tofu's fermented soybean, and it looks like a little cheese. Cheese?
Yeah.
That's good point. Like cheese. It's usually in like a case near the produce.
I'll try more.
And it doesn't really taste like anything, so that's what Kim was just saying. So, you know, it's healthier, it's a healthier kind of choice for food. But, you know, it's an acquired thing.
I think it's really about knowing how to prepare it correctly makes a really big difference, and changes the texture a lot too. So the crumble is a really easy way to have it. I like to also put a little cornstarch on it that gets it a little crispy. If you're adding seasoning to the outside of like huge tofu, add a little cornstarch and that will help it get nice and crispy when you're sauteing it or roasting it. So that can be helpful as well. But yeah, so it can have a lot of calcium, typically known as a plant-based protein, but also a great source of calcium. So that's one recipe on there. That's a sheet pan one that you just bake in the oven. So very easy, put everything on sheet. So that's one recipe I have there. Now to our apple pies, I keep talking. I'm going to be adding a little bit of maple syrup. I'm not going to measure, but you can. And like I said, I'm changing this a little bit. I'm just going to add a little bit because we're also going to get some sweetness from the granola that I put in. So we don't need a ton. If you were to make this like the cooked version, you would take the apple, put it in a saute pan with a little bit of butter, warm up the apple, it gets nice and soft and brown, and you add it on top like a warm apple pie filling. So this is like the cold version. So to the maple syrup, I'm also going to add some apple pie spice. I have on the recipe, it's like the individual spices, cinnamon, nutmeg, allspice. I cheated. I just got an apple pie blend or like a pumpkin pie blend. It's all going to have those types of spices. So that's a really easy way to add that flavor. And then to go with the fall theme, I went with the pumpkin flaxseed granola, not super high in calcium, but pumpkin seeds are great for unsaturated fats for our heart, so can't hurt. So I added that in. And then I have some chia seeds as well. So I'm going to add that in.
And the moisture of the maple syrup is alone fine to kind of absorb into the chia seed, if that's good?
So you don't like necessarily have to soak chia seeds before you eat them. Like there's liquid in your body that they're gonna absorb, right, and get bigger, and then slow down your digestion. They have a lot of fiber in them. But you totally can make like a chia seed pudding, but in this case, like if you wanted them, I would stir it with the yogurt and leave it for a little bit. The yogurt they would absorb that and get softer.
That's good to know. Thank you for that.
No problem. So I'm going to finish these with, I have our plain Greek yogurt, granola, I'm going to add a little chia seeds, and then our apple topping. The other recipes I have on there, one is a peanut butter smoothie. So smoothies are a very easy way to get dairy in, Greek yogurt and milk to get a bunch of calcium really quickly. And when we're talking about dairy and milk, of course, regular cow's milk is known to have a lot of calcium, but the plant-based alternatives tend to be fortified with calcium, which means that, you say it's a lot of chia seeds? They're little, they won't taste them. So I tell the kids, my kids cooking classes, I'm like, no, taste them. So when something is fortified, it means something is added to the product that was not originally there. So the plant-based milks all tend to be fortified with calcium. When it comes to other nutrients in milk, like protein, then you would want to go for like a soy milk. That's going to be your closest alternative nutritionally. But when it comes to calcium and vitamins, they tend to all be fortified to match that. So you just want to check the nutrition facts label. But for calcium alone, you could use any kind of plant-based milk as an alternative as long as it's fortified.
Is it regular milk?
Yep. Yeah, so regular milk guaranteed, it has calcium in it, you're good. And they fortify regular milk too with vitamin D. And that's to help with the calcium absorption. So regular milk is also fortified, but it naturally has the calcium.
Stop. I don't know why. We used to drink milk, but we don't do that anymore. We drink regular milk.
In terms of calcium, the different kinds of milk are all going to be good. What changes is the amount of fat in them, so that's, you know, a different focus. But for calcium, you can have any of them, and for protein, they all have protein in them. All right, so I'm going to top these off. So that peanut butter smoothie is a really easy way to get a lot of calcium. Other recipes I have on there for a snack, there are strawberry basil mozzarella skewers. So that uses the little like mozzarella pearls that are pre-made. You get them in the deli section by like the fancy cheeses in a little container. So those are super easy. It's strawberries, basil, and the mozzarella pearls, and then you can just use a balsamic glaze on top. I think the recipe has you like cook down balsamic, but you could also just buy balsamic glaze. So that's a really easy snack that is a good way to get some calcium in from that cheese. And then the last recipe on there is a sweet potato kale hash. So it's something like you saute a bunch of veggies, you throw some eggs on top. It's a simple way to explain it. But the source of calcium in there is going to be your kale. So I would recommend increasing the kale, especially when you cook it. It gets really small anyway. So kale, dark leafy greens can be good sources of calcium as well. With spinach, it does have calcium in it, but it can be hard to absorb, so you want to make sure it's cooked. And that'll help you absorb it a little bit more. All right, so these are ready to sample. If you guys want to grab one, you can come try it. And happy to answer any other questions about calcium. So we have our plain Greek yogurt, chia seeds, granola, and then that apple combination that I just left as is, but you can also cook on the stove and make it a nice warm topping.
So approximately how much calcium is in this snack?
So the main source is going to be our Greek yogurt. So probably what I just put is about 1/3 of a cup. So that's going to have 10% of your daily calcium right there in the yogurt, based on 2/3 of a cup of a serving of this. Plus the chia seeds, I didn't add a full tablespoon, but a tablespoon is going to have, a tablespoon is going to have 5% of your daily calcium. I added a little less than that, so it'll add a little something. But the chia seed pudding that she made is going to be a good way to add like a ton, because it's very concentrated chia seeds.
What do you get out of taking multiple vitamins?
So, like multiple calcium vitamins, multiple.
Regular, one a day, multiple?
Yeah. I mean, to a certain point, you won't absorb things anymore, so it gets to a point where it's not a benefit to have more always.
Right.
For certain things, there is an upper limit of how much you want to get in a day. So for calcium, the upper limit is 2,000 milligrams. Upper limit means here's like a safe level to get to without any adverse side effects. So with some things there is that upper limit. With other things like water-soluble vitamins, you'll just pee them out if you have a ton. So like if you have a vitamin with like 1,000,000% of vitamin C, like 200%, you're not going to absorb it all, so it's not really beneficial at that point. Like you'll get as much as you want. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it goes through you. Taking more doesn't do anything.
Right, exactly. Yeah, it's not, more is not necessarily better because you probably just won't absorb it all.
I take the multiple vitamin every day, so I want to make sure I'm getting a little bit of everything.
See, I'm the.
That's a safe bet.
That's what I do.
And you want to make sure that, so like certain vitamins, like vitamin D, for example, is fat soluble. So that means you need some fat to absorb it. So if you have vitamin D with a meal that has some fat in it, like olive oil or something like that, or peanut butter, that'll help absorb it a little bit better. Because you want to have that fat with the fat soluble vitamin D.
Chia seeds and wet.
Yes. Stirring up the chia seeds.
Yeah, make sure they get wet.
Yeah.
I've never had them.
You don't really taste them too much. I add them. I make a lot of like smoothie bowls, acai bowls. I usually put them on top. You don't taste them. It's just like a good boost of nutrition. You'll taste it a little more in like a chia seed pudding, but in something like this where you're sprinkling it on top, it's not a prominent flavor. They do get stuck in your teeth sometimes.
What about those people who are lactose intolerant? Do you suggest like they have coconut yogurt, cashew yogurt?
So they could definitely do a different yogurt. You just want to make sure it's fortified with calcium. For milk, you could get a lactose-free regular milk, or you could do one of the plant-based milks. You just want to look and make sure that look at the ingredients list, make sure it has some calcium in it. On the nutrition fact.
Vitamin D and Wait, the doctor doesn't recommend because you have what?
Vitamin
D and calcium.
Supplements.
Supplements or whatever. So what is the doctor recommending?
Nothing.
But is the doctor recommending eating your nutrition with food? So that's sometimes that's what this talk is really about. Because remember, and I'm talking to some of our friends who remember the calcium challenge. Raise your hand if you remember the calcium challenge.
Yeah.
Okay, we used to do a 3-day diary of your foods that you ate in a day. So Kim is actually she gave us a cheat sheet, if you saw the cheat sheet, because really we should be eating 1,200 milligrams of calcium. And of course,
Well, it might be calcium citrate or calcium carbonate, which is what is in the supplement.
Is that what a calcium tablet is made up of?
Yeah.
So it's basically like taking a tablet, only it's
Yeah.
liquefied.
That's a good way to look at it, yeah. Like they're adding the vitamin directly, so, yeah. A supplement's gonna be more concentrated, so it's gonna be like a lot all at once versus like vitamin D being added to something. A supplement will probably be more if you need that, but maybe the food's enough.
Well, I know that the doctors don't like the supplements. So when your food is fortified with a supplement,
So
we
a
avoid
benefit of that too, like we're saying, like calcium and vitamin D, you need them together. A lot of times when you have a nutrient in food, you're having a lot of other things that help to digest it. So like I said, you need some fat to digest vitamin D. So if you're having it in a meal, it's more likely there's some fat in your meal, and that's going to help digest the vitamin D. So there's usually things that work together in food to help digest things a little bit better.
well, I was buying the orange juice that's fortified with vitamin D. And I wonder if that's really a good thing to do.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. Because vitamin D is not naturally found in a ton of
I
foods.
mean, I don't mean fortified with vitamin D,
With
fortified
calcium.
with calcium.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think that's totally fine.
Right, I was gonna say, what foods have D in it? Very few.
Vitamin D is like salmon, I believe. I think eggs have a little bit. It can be hard to get enough vitamin D
Yeah.
in food alone.
right, and we are usually really low because we're above the equator. There's actually an app called the D Minder. Believe it or not, and it actually will say, oh, today's a good day to get vitamin D. I know that sounds strange, but right now, we are getting a lot of vitamin D because the weather is conducive to it, right? We want to be outside. And then, of course, winter comes, we're all rubbed up, we're running back and forth, right?
And then we take a cruise.
We can only hope.
One thing to consider with getting vitamin D from the sun, factors that would affect how much you get is like
Right.
how much skin is exposed.
Right.
Like I said, if you have sunscreen on, you're not absorbing it, but of course sunscreen is still very important. And like it can be hard to get enough of the sun because it's not like you're walking outside in a bikini all the time. Like not a lot of skin is exposed, you know what I mean? So that can affect how much you get.
That's a good point. How much vitamin D should you take a day?
I don't know.
Yeah.
Everybody's different.
Yeah, everybody's different and it would coincide in So I know I'm getting followed by my doctor who told me to stop taking vitamin D, but I still am taking a vitamin D tablet, capsule, with K2, D3 and K2. I take it 3 times a week.
How much was your count of vitamin D?
And in that, it's like 2,000 IUs or something.
No. When they did the test for vitamin D, how much vitamin D did you have?
Oh, it was high,
And then why
80
you
or
taking
something.
vitamin D? You don't need vitamin D. Here, 80.
Yeah.
I was 30, I had to take it.
Yes. And that's why people, we typically,
Because vitamin is toxic
if you have too much, yeah.
To answer your question too, I don't know all the numbers off the top of my head, but to find that information very quickly, vitamin D RDA is what you would look up. That's the recommended daily allowance.
Oh,
And usually it's like the first result. It's very easy to find these numbers. So like that's what the calcium numbers is, calcium RDA.
Google tells you right there.
Yeah, so like to know you're getting the right answer, recommended daily allowance, just type in RDA. Sometimes RDA is in different units or like different amounts, so just recommended daily allowance is how you find what you need for any of these.
When they do blood tests, what blood test would tell your vitamin, like what you're good at?
I think it varies. Like vitamin D, I know you can get through like a direct blood test, but calcium is going to be through like your bones and different things that they look at. So it'll vary.
I have my vitamin D retested all the time.
Yeah.
When I do my blood test, they
As a vitamin D.
If you're getting like a lipid panel, you can usually just ask and they'll add on whatever for like.
So adults over, it's about 800 IUs or 20 micrograms if you're over 70. If you're between 19 and 70, it's 600 international units or 15 micrograms of vitamin D. And thank you for that. Vitamin D, RDA, it says it. The RDA, recommended daily allowance, is the average daily amount of vitamin D that's enough to meet most nutritional needs. And RDA assumes that people get little to no sunlight exposure, which right now that might not be true because I know I've been out a lot more in the sun. But you're right, we're not walking around in bathing suits all day long, right? However, people, right, so.
And then the sunscreen affects it too.
Yeah. So when you look at a food label too, like these percentages are based on the RDA, how much you should get in one day. So that's like where they get those numbers from.
The Endocrine Society recommends adults get 15 to 2,000 international units per day. But vitamin D toxicity can occur, and it's more likely from supplements than from food. And hence why, Becky, that's why your doctor will bring that up, right? Because when we take supplementation, we also are getting it from our food.
Just as an example, I have absorptionist, is I take 5,000 units daily, and I get my D3 tested all the time, and it just keeps it normal with that high level. So you really have to talk to your doctor.
You really, and that's such a good point. My sister-in-law, who frequents Florida every year and was in wintertime, came back with her vitamin D was less than 30, whatever that is, and she had terrible pains. Had her blood tested, it was really low, and then they started increasing it, just like you said, Bonnie, very high dosage. But that is so true. We have to follow, we have to check it out. And these are tests that we can get, which is good news, right?
Speaking of absorption, with calcium absorption, if you are taking a supplement, some of them you need to take with food to help absorb it. You need stomach acid, so calcium carbonate supplements you need to take with food. Calcium citrate, I believe, is the one you don't necessarily need to, but just something to consider to help absorb it too. And as we get older, we have less stomach acid, so that's going to affect how much you have to consume.
And the supplements flush through your body in a day.
I don't know the time. Yeah, the time. I don't know the exact timing of each thing, but yeah, if you have excess, if it's something that you can have toxicity of, you want to watch. And calcium is one of those things. There's an upper limit, but likely you're going to excrete it. Like if you have a water-soluble vitamin, it's a vitamin that breaks down in water. That's the vitamin C example. Like you just pee it out. So there's things that just go through. If you have a lot at once in a supplement, food is probably not going to have that much.
That's funny that you say that.
Calcium, and it has vitamin D right in it.
Yeah.
So if you take 1,200 a day, I assume that the vitamin D is.
Yeah, like adequate amount. Yeah, and a lot of times foods like the milk has the vitamin D added. Cereal can sometimes be fortified with calcium and vitamin D, so like they can go hand in hand for sure.
Not to take away from Kim, I'll go around.
I've checked on it. It makes me like 4 times a night.
Really?
And the doctor looks at me like I'm crazy. But
I'll
take it,
overnight.
and I'll be up 4 times a night, and then I'll stop, and it'll take a couple days, and it goes away. And I'll take it again.
That's so interesting.
So I know it's vitamin D.
Yeah, right, you tested it, yeah. That's
She
so
doesn't
interesting.
believe, she thinks I'm a lunatic. Well, do you want me to call you every time I get up and pay?
Just because I haven't heard before, I still think of you. Is that how it is? Yeah.
So that makes an issue. And I do get a lot of
Yeah, yeah.
summer, but it's very,
Yeah, fortified food is
I'm
probably
very
going to be your best
cheap.
bet. Whether it's milk or cereal or something.
and I do this all the time.
Yeah.
She tells me
Yeah, it's
I'm
kind of-
here, you need more vitamin D.
It's very common to be like deficient with like a lot of.
I will get it to you. I'll email Mary because I didn't copy
Looks
it.
gross. Tastes better than it looks like dirt. It looks like vitamin E dirt. It's got the texture of tapioca.
That's what I like it.
Tapioca. I like tapioca.
I'm gonna try this too.
I would throw yogurt in my fire too.
Yeah, my kids
I never know how it comes out. I don't like that.
Oh, I like tapioca.
Yeah, well, let's give Kim a round of applause.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
So if you have any questions, you ever want to meet with me, you want to walk around the store with me, we can look at different products, whatever you need. My email address is on the bottom of that handout, so feel free to reach out. Thank you. Absolutely.
So you're in the store?
Can I give out a salad recipe?
Yes.
Tomato and peach. They are both now at their very best. So you take tomatoes, slice them, peach, slice them. Some the green leaf, the basil, a bit of onion, however you want, whichever onion you like.
And the red one.
And then
is
salt
better
and, oil and vinegar. And it makes a fabulous salad.
Thank you.
I'm putting peaches in my salad.
I think the sister made it and everybody was like,
I like it too. I like it. If you guys want more, I can leave this. You can leave it at your time. Yeah, it's fine. I think people really love the fact that